Adventurous looking crossovers are all the rage these days, but not all of them are created equal. And while some models past and present are properly capable, others can't make it much farther than a gravel road. The 2026 Honda Passport TrailSport, it's probably somewhere in between, with the rugged looks and right tires for the job, but with a total package that comes up short of something like Subaru's wilderness treatment. It can also cost considerably more than it did before, making this 5-seater a pricey proposition in an ever more expensive market. For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that. Look, I'm not here to say Honda didn't do enough with this Passport TrailSport, but I definitely think it could have done more, and that's based on expectations set by existing entries as well as Honda itself, because when it first started to roll out this TrailSport treatment, it promised it was going to get better. And it did. After the first couple years, I think it was in 2024, there was a TrailSport version of the Passport that Honda rolled out with all-terrain tires and then said, hey, when the next one drops, it's going to be the real deal. But here's the other problem. Others in the industry have already stepped the game up when it comes to these kind of rugged crossovers. Subaru with its wilderness models, even Jeep with the Cherokee and Grand Cherokee Trailhawk versions. Those have more going for it than this thing does. Yes, you've got some steel skid plates underneath, an off-road tuned suspension, some dedicated drive modes, but I do think this thing comes up short of my expectations in both literal and figurative senses. So the big one is ride height, 8.3 inches of ground clearance, the exact same as the non-TrailSport versions of the Passport you can buy in the States. And that's going to lead me to an important digression, because we no longer have those here in Canada. There used to be a sport version at the bottom of the lineup. That is gone. Every version of the Passport in Canada is now a TrailSport, and then you can pick some packages. So there's the base version, TrailSport Touring, and then there's a blackout package that you can add to either of them that comes with black wheels and badges. It adds $1,200 to the asking price, and then that's the next important part, because this thing is expensive. The 2026 Passport starts at about 59 grand before tax in Canada. That's 3 grand more than the TrailSport was last year, and more importantly, it's 6,500 bucks more than the base version you used to be able to get that's no longer available. And then you've got this touring version that's 62,500, and then, like I said, that $1,200 blackout package that can be added to either of them. That is a lot of money. I don't care how you look at it, and I don't care how expensive other vehicles in this segment and others are getting. 60 grand for this SUV before tax, that is expensive. Anyway, mechanically, this thing is pretty much identical to before, although Honda says the all-wheel drive system has been reworked to respond more quickly to get torque where you need it. So I say it's time to put that to the test. Okay, I know this probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. This footage doesn't look as good as the stuff shot by video producer extraordinaire Will Johnson, but that's because I'm self-shooting out on the trail just to give you guys a little taste of what this thing is capable of. Now, no, this isn't a proper off-roader like a Jeep Wrangler, a Ford Bronco. I'd even go so far as to say it doesn't quite have the same chops as one of Subaru's wilderness models. But for something a little more intense than a cottage road, it's handling itself pretty good. I wouldn't take your average crossover down this trail, especially one without all-terrain tires. So it's nice that this thing is riding on proper rubber. It's also got some different drive modes. I do have it in trail mode, and that does disable traction control to let the wheels spin a little bit. And that's what you want, especially on some of these looser surfaces out here. Now, articulation, it's actually pretty good. The bigger issue, ground clearance, not all that great, 8.3 inches, the same as last year. That's about an inch less than you get with something like one of Subaru's wilderness models, and that definitely helps those. Versus here, the same goes with the approach and departure angles. They are not all that great.
And that really does limit the sort of obstacles you can climb up and off of. That is a big thing to keep in mind. Now, I suppose if you were gonna give this thing a third-party lift, or I don't know, cut the bumpers, you might get a little bit more performance. The bigger issue for me is the way the all-wheel drive system works. Now, yes, like I just said, I do have it in trail mode, so there is some intentional wheel spin, but it just struggles sometimes in a way that I don't love. It takes a little while longer to hook up than I would like to see. And speaking of what I would like to see, I do appreciate that this thing has surround view cameras. You can pull up what Honda calls Trail Watch. It comes up automatically in trail mode. It is handy if you don't have a spotter, but the problem is the resolution. Not all that great, and there's a huge lag, especially when you get a little bit of speed going. The entrance to this trail isn't a trail, it's just kind of a dirt road, so I was doing maybe about 30 kilometers an hour, and it was really struggling to keep up. The refresh rate isn't all that great. So that kind of gives you an overview of what this thing is capable of and what it isn't.
Now look, I didn't do a deep dive into it, and some of that responsiveness, well, it could be down to the torque converter as opposed to the all-wheel drive system itself. The issue really is when I was getting my foot down on the throttle, it was taking a long time for the wheels to start spinning. And that's the problem, because especially when you're trying to carefully negotiate on an off-road trail, you don't want to tear it up. More throttle isn't the answer. You don't want to just spin the tires. You want to be able to apply throttle very gently and then increase how much torque you need progressively, and that just doesn't seem to be possible here.Maybe it's this specific one I'm driving, but I didn't love the way that it got the torque down out on the trail. Anyways, on the subject of torque, there's 262 pound-feet of it to go with 285 horsepower, which, yes, is about 5 more than you got last year. 10-speed automatic transmission, just like it was before, paired with this 3.5-liter V6. Pretty good, fairly strong overall. When you get your foot down, it'll downshift quickly. It sounds as strong as a V6 like this should. And I will say it is fairly responsive even when you go to make passing maneuvers. But when you roll onto the throttle and progressively take off from a stop, that really is where it's at its best. Now, beyond that, I will say the Passport is pretty smooth overall. The suspension, yeah, it's reasonably comfortable, although I will say some heaves in the pavement do lead to a little bit more trouble inside than I would have expected. A little more jarring, especially considering it's got these big squishy all-terrain tires. But it's not all the time, and I haven't been able to isolate it at certain speeds or certain conditions, but every now and then it feels almost as if there are no bushings in the suspension or the connecting rods. The way it really kind of rattles, it's kind of rickety over bumps in the road, but then other times it's super smooth, and on the highway it tracks really well, which isn't always the case with squishy tires like these ones. Kind of tend to wander a little bit. Responsiveness in the steering isn't always great, but that's not the case here. Honda's done a nice job there. But the other thing to consider with these all-terrain tires is the extra road noise that comes with them. Now, these all-terrain tires don't just help on the trail, they're part of what makes this Passport TrailSport look so good. And I gotta say, I really do like the overall styling of this redesign. Now, I'm not in love with that fake hood scoop up front, but just about everything else is perfect, right down to those amber daytime running lights. A really cool touch, something you don't see very often, the way they form that kind of outer ring around each headlight. Anyways, these raised roof rails, they are standard too. If you want to throw some cargo or even a rooftop tent up there, there are also some steps just inside here. So if you're accessing any cargo, well, it makes it a whole lot easier because it gives you a place to stand, and the doors open nice and wide as well. Now, looking around back, there's a good amount of cargo room because, of course, there's no third row in here like you get with the Honda Pilot. There's also some extra cubbies for small items, including one under the floor, but here is the bigger issue. It's what's beside it. A compact spare instead of a full-size all-terrain tire that really runs counter to what this thing is supposed to be all about. Something I have always appreciated about Honda's products is all the extra practicality that gets packed inside, and that is the case here. You've got these great cup holders and shelves on the front and back doors. that are helpful for stashing stuff, including cups. They're not just bottle holders. So you can actually have your coffee down here if you want to keep it out of the way. I don't know if you've got your wallet and keys and stuff over here, but there's also this shelf here with this standard wireless phone charger, plus this open cubby up here on the dash, and it's rubberized, which means stuff shouldn't go sliding around if you're out on a winding road like this one. That is great to see. There's also a good amount of space. Don't forget, this is a pretty big vehicle for a two-row SUV. It's bigger than the Honda CR-V, the Toyota RAV4. It's a step above, a little bit smaller than the three-row Pilot, but you do have that same platform underpinning this thing as it does the Pilot, as well as the Ridgeline pickup. Now on the flip side, there is some cheap plastic, which again has been long symptomatic of Honda's products, and some of it is in high contact areas, like down here on this window switch panel. It is very cheap. It's also scratch prone. Now, don't get me wrong, gloss plastic is too, but this stuff, it's not textured enough to help hide dust and scratches, so I don't love it. It's not gonna age very well, and it's not very becoming of this product or the price that Honda is charging for it. But then this infotainment system vastly improved. There's still a bit of a learning curve, but it functions an awful lot like a smartphone, which is exactly what you want to see. Now, this does have Google built in that includes Google Maps. Here is my issue. If you go ahead and call up Google Maps, you've got this widget on the right side of the screen. You cannot get the map to go full screen, or at least I couldn't figure out how to do it. It has this fixed widget on the right side. But if you use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can go ahead and call up Google Maps and you get that full screen view. So I prefer using it through my phone as opposed to the built-in maps. But then you don't get the advantage of the built-in system, which has a little widget here in the digital instrument display that includes turn-by-turn directions. So if you're in unfamiliar territory and you don't have the map up here on the screen, you're not going to miss that next direction, that next turn you have to make. So I do like that that will pop up no matter what is in the screen, or you can have that fixed on the screen at all times. Again, the interface is a lot better than before, so I guess we can praise that. One thing I don't love that I already talked about, the resolution of those cameras, especially at speed. As the speed increases, the refresh rate does cause some issues. So that's one more complaint that I have about this system. Now, other than that, this TrailSport Touring is pretty decked out. You've got heated and ventilated front seats, a heated steering wheel, heated rear seats, tri-zone automatic climate control, a height programmable power tailgate, all the stuff you would expect. You also get a full advanced safety suite, but in typical Honda fashion, I do find it on the sensitive side, both the blind spot monitoring that gives you a very wide gap and it'll warn you when you go to make a lane change when you are well past any adjacent traffic, as well as the forward collision warning. Now, this one isn't beeping like crazy, but you still get this flashing orange light that says brake all the time, even when vehicles ahead of you are just slowing down. It's nothing to be panicked about. This is scarier than what's actually happening out in front of you. So that is one more issue I have with this Passport, but I will say it is vastly improved. To recap, I like the Honda Passport's new look, how spacious and well used the interior is, and that it's reasonably capable for a crossover like it. I don't like how expensive it is, some of the plastics inside, or that it has a compact spare instead of a full-size all-terrain. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm struggling a little bit with this one because I get the appeal of this new Passport TrailSport, but I also think that Honda could have gone a bit further to make this an even more capable vehicle. It's sort of a chicken or the egg debate here because yes, I do think this has more than enough ability off-road for your average shopper, but then for the money Honda is charging, I just don't think it has enough stuff. I don't know about you guys, but shelling out 60 grand for an SUV like this, not exactly my idea of a good time. And it's like I've said before, I don't think it's up to any one automaker to sell cheap vehicles, but this thing is a good example of just how unobtainable the market has become overall. Yes, it is a little bit more capable than your average SUV, but then if that's what you're after, you could save yourself a good 15 grand or more on a Subaru Forester Wilderness that, yes, is a little bit smaller, but it can also make it further off the beaten path.